floated, right? Now, please note that this is a 7 months of, extensive training, and it's every Saturday and Sunday. So it is an excellent chance, for you guys to get into Azure, slowly and get to an advanced level, right? So every week, 1 hour, Saturday 1 hour, Sunday 1 hour, we'll do this training. The complete from Monday to Friday, you have ample time to practice and so on, right? So guys, let us start. So today, not today, but like today, tomorrow, and as well as must be the next Saturday, right? My goal is to try to complete the basic Azure concepts, right? Okay, and also please note, with the feedback, from the community, what I've done is that I've also added, some, what do you call, Azure exam questions as well, like AZ 900 and developer questions. But please note that, this is not an Azure certification course. That is important to understand. I will do give you a taste of these questions, right? But at the end of the day, it is very important for me to see that, as a teacher, that you understand Azure, you can work on Azure, you can give solutions on Azure, right? So that's what the goal of this training is. But definitely, I will make you understand what, how the questions of each exams are. We'll see that, right? So guys, let us start with the basic concept. And remember, please, this is starting from basics and going till the advanced. So sometimes what will happen is, as many people will think, oh, like I have done already this, right? Fine, you have done it, just wait for the time, when we go to developer track, or when we start moving to the higher end APIM, or when we go to Azure infrastructure, right? Or when we go to DevOps, when we go to machine learning. So just be a little bit patient, have a little bit patience out there, right? So let us start with basic Azure concept. First thing, why do we need Azure? For example, means first thing, which comes to my mind is that we have GoDaddy, and we have, for example, if I want to host my website, I have GoDaddy, isn't it? Or I have some other many websites out there, or I can call up a local provider, right? I just want to make sure that I'm audible. Let me know here, just to, because all good with audio and screen share. Very good. Thank you. And what about here? Remember this, today's first session is streamed in many places. So I want to just make sure that there also things are okay. Right. Let me see here. Yes, Questmon support. Yeah, everything is okay here. Questmon support. Let me know before I move ahead. Yes. Any questions? Questions, right, guys? I'll take it at the last. This session, what I'm doing is that I will do it for 1 hour and 15 minutes. So there are 15 minutes. We have ample time to answer the questions, right? So very quickly, starting here. So we have many hosting providers, out there. So we can call them up. We can get a virtual machine, isn't it? What is so great about Azure, right? That is the first thing which comes to our mind, right? See, the whole point of this cloud is, pay as you go model, right? Pay as you go. And first thing, when you actually go to GoDaddy, right? You have to go and you have to buy that for the whole month, a whole year, I'm sorry. So for example, if you say, I want to go and buy some hosting out there, they will not say that, okay, for 1 day or 1 hour. That is not there. In other words, there is no pay as you go. There is no consumption based model, right? The first thing. Second thing, if you look at the services in GoDaddy, I don't think it is extensive like Amazon or Azure. For example, if you look at Azure right out here, this is my Azure login out here. I mean, like I can go here and say, what do I want to do? I want to go and create a virtual machine. Fine. It's like a shopping basket. I can go here and say virtual machine, create it, use it, delete it. Okay. Or if you say, no, like I want to go and now create, or must be, I want to do Docker. Fine. So Docker. Okay. So there it is. You can do Docker, you can do app services. You say you want to use SQL Server, you want to use Oracle. So it's like you just go out there, click on it, use it, test it, right? And remember the scalability. The other thing is scalability. For example, if let us say you go and you buy on GoDaddy saying that this is a small size virtual machine, and if you want to upgrade it, I don't think there is an automatic way of doing it. You have to then go and send a mail. At least I'm not sure, right, if there is a way to do it, automatically go and upgrade it, right? And we cannot restrict, um, just website hosting. I mean, like if you think that you want to only go and do website hosting, like you want to only host an MVC application with SQL Server, right? It would be very unfair to compare website hosting or application hosting with hosting on Azure. Definitely, if you're just doing website hosting, right, then must be GoDaddy will be very cheaper. But if you say, no, no, I want to use a pay-as-you-go model, not possible with GoDaddy or other websites out there. If you say, I want to use queues, I want to use different storage models, not possible. If you say you want to use Docker, again, you have to buy a new service, right? So in case of Azure, what happens is two, three things are there. or in case of any cloud, not only Azure, right? In case of Amazon also, it is a pay as you go model. I will use it for an hour, I will use it for a year, I will pay it, and that's how it is, right? The second important thing also here is that, which I'm not sure if in GoDaddy it is possible or other places. I'm using the word GoDaddy just as an example. Huh? So here, other thing in Azure is that whenever you say, okay, I want to go and use pay as you go, right? The question comes is, at what level? Means what? For example, someone will say, I just want the infrastructure. Infrastructure means I want a virtual machine, I want the metal, I want the hard disk, I want the RAM. Give me a machine with an operating system, right? So you can say at the lower level, you will say, okay, infrastructure as a service. You just want an operating system with a good machine, with whatever GB RAM, whatever GB hard disk, right? This is one level where you can go and just buy the infrastructure, right? The second thing you will say, no, like, in when you actually buy an infrastructure, right? For example, you say you want to do MVC hosting. So what happens is, you have to go there, you have to configure the IIS pool, you have to install SQL Server, you have to buy license for SQL Server, right? Again, everything is like, as you are doing offline, you are doing it online, right? So on the top of it, Azure has created a lot of services, so which we call as software as a service. Okay. Sorry, platform as a service. I'm sorry, platform as a service. In other words, they will say, okay, do you want to do web hosting? If you want to do web hosting, right, you don't have to think about the virtual machine. You don't have to think about IIS and everything, right? I will give you something called as app service. Use this app service and host your application. Then you will say, no, 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 like, I don't have a website. I just have a single function I want to run. So let us say you want to just run one backup function, right? So, okay, like we have a function app. So use this service. Or must we will say, no, like, I'm not interested in SQL Azure. I'm interested in queues. I'm interested in tables, right? No SQL. Fine. Then they have Azure storage. So on the top of it, for developers, they have built platform as a service. So when you actually go and buy at this level, right, what will happen is you don't have to deal with virtual machines and etc. and operating system and etc. So this is one more level, right? So this is one level where you say, I want to take full control of it, right? And I want to take the metal part. मैं install करूंगा, मैं ऐसा करूंगा, I will do all these things, right? Then you have the platform where you say, okay, Azure has certain platform services they are provided, and as a developer, you want to ease that process out, right? You can use them. And the top, this is specifically for end users, software as a service, where you say, okay, I want an accounting software. I don't want to even get into that platform and all. I'm an end user, or I want to use Office 365, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and all, right? So, or I want to use CRM Dynamics, I want to use SharePoint, right? So these are things, which are software as a service, which is for end users, right? So you can see when you say pay as you go model also, right? You can see, like, over here, the name itself says pay as you go is my account. So when you say pay as you go model and consumption model, right, you can buy at different levels of services, so when you say, for example, if you're using SQL database, you can see out here, that means you are at this level, platform as a service, right? If you're going and saying, no, like, I want to go and create a virtual machine out there, then you are at this level, right? So when you're taking any service out there, um, you are buying at one of these levels, right? Guys, if you have any questions, you can put down. After 1 hour, I will make sure that I will answer the questions, right? So software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Everything is as a service, right? It is like how we hire Ola and Uber, right? We don't actually own that, right? So it is more, I will say, like, if this two words I want to introduce out here, it is more uh, OPEX, right? Means more you are only paying for the operation cost. For example, if you say you want to own a machine, you want to own the hardware, right? Then you are doing a lot of capex, isn't it? You are actually buying that hardware. You're going to the market. Let us say you are doing things offline. So what you will do? You will say, okay, let me go and buy an hardware. Let me do this. Let me take that, right? So that is more capex oriented. Here it is just more OPEX oriented, where you say that, okay, I will just take that service, use it, and throw it, right? So these two words are used a lot here, capex and opex, and specifically management, loves to hear these words, right? Okay. Now, so why cloud infrastructure, EAS, PIAS, and CIAS? This is one. And also I just discussed this some keywords out here, that what do you mean by capex? What do you mean by opex? And what do you mean by consumption-based model, right? Okay, the consumption-based model pay as you go. These are all synonyms you can think about, right? Now, the important thing comes is that, okay, so Shiv, very nice. How about going and opening up an Azure account? So very quickly, if you want to open up an Azure account, just Google out there, Azure portal free account, right? And if you go out there, uh, you will get this first screen out here. You can start for free. Start for free means what? See, first thing, guys, very important it is, right? We spend thousands of rupees, eating money, sorry, eating food in hotels and etc., right? Or going out somewhere, right? So I would suggest, for your knowledge, don't hesitate to spend some money out here. In other words, a lot of people call us and say that, okay, like, can you give us Azure free account? Come on, like, because if you look at Azure free, right? What do you mean by Azure free? Let me explain you. First thing, they will give you a $200 credit out here, right? Means what? Uh, for 12 months, some of these services, until your $200 does not finish, you can use it. Please note, uh, that $200, if you use it properly, you can use it very nicely for coming 5 6 months. If you go ahead and if you on a service, if you don't stop it, right, definitely the $200 will exhaust, right? But if you go and say, okay, let me open up a virtual machine, let me learn it. Once I do it, I delete it. You won't get a bill of more than 700 to 800 rupees if you're learning Azure, right? Even if you use the biggest virtual network, and even if you use APIM, right? Seven, a maximum 1,000 rupees, right? So you use it, understand it, but remember to delete it, right? If you do that, first thing, you have to exhaust the $200, right? Credit, isn't it? Second one is that once that is exhausted, let's say because our course is for 7 months, right? After that, I don't think that if you do these demos also, it won't cost more than that amount, right? At least my bills are like that. Okay. So now very quickly here, understand it. First thing, this $1,200, whatever you are having out here, it you can see there is a word written here. You will have it for 30 days to use it. 30 days is there, but for free services, free services, there is no 30 days. What do you mean by free services? Free services means services like, virtual machine, SQL Azure, Blob, Cosmos DB, app. So some of these have the free services which we can use it at least for 12 months. So I can go to Azure and buy the virtual machine which is free out there, learn it, right? SQL Azure the same way, for some amount of core, I can use it and do it, right? So again, like when you say 30 days means for some services, it is 30 days. For many of the services, when I say many of the services means until this developer track finishes, I think this all would be on the free account, right? Okay. So go ahead, register out here. You have to put your credit card. Don't be afraid about it. It is Microsoft. Just make sure that you delete once you use it. I will show you how to delete that, right? Great. So go ahead, register out here. It's just you have to fill your name, you have to fill your credit card information, and you'll get the login, right? And once you get the login, you are out here and ready to use, right? Okay, you would get a more clear, clean screen out here. You can see I'm using my Azure account, so you can see many of the Azure services which have popped up out here. But in your case, you would probably get a very clean white area out here, right? Okay, so that is about the opening up an Azure account, right? So what I will do is now, let me go ahead and create a Azure virtual machine. Let me do some practicals out here. I wanted to start in 15 minutes of practical. So this first 15 minutes went into the theory, right? So let me go ahead and do a infrastructure as a service. Let me go and create an infrastructure as a service, right? And yes, please, if you want, you can put down the questions out here. Okay, let me take this question. Can you explain CapEx and OpEx? Okay, let me explain that. Must be I went too fast out there. See, CapEx and OpEx, remember some of these are very marketing things out here. When Azure started, these words were used a lot, or when cloud started. See, CapEx means what? When you say you want to go ahead and host an application, right? So let us go the traditional way. In the traditional way, what happens? You will buy a server, you will buy the operating system license, you will buy the SQL license. This cost is one time. You have to invest this one time for these hardwares. You have to invest it, and after that, if these hardwares once, let us say, 1 year is gone, right, then you apply for depreciation and all that, and slowly, this machine, after 5 6 years, you don't know what to do about it, right? You have to again dispose it or sell it at the second hand cost again. So here we have a one time investment which you have to do, plus You have to also pay the salaries of the employees. You have to also maintain that. So there is a capex, a capital expenditure, and there is an operation expenditure as well, right? So in case of without cloud, or in case of offline, right, you have to do all this. But in case of Azure, you don't have to. You go out there, you use infrastructure as a service, you create the machine, use it, and then throw it away. That's it. Now, this machine, you don't have to apply for depreciation and all that, right? So here, you just have OPEX. You don't have CAPEX as such. That already Azure has taken care of it, right? So that is the difference. Here you have a capital expenditure, please note. And this expenditure, because this is a hardware, right? Because and remember, if you buy a software license also, when you say you want to upgrade from, let us say, 2019 to SQL Server to 2022, again you have to pay money. But in case here, if you're using SQL Azure, it is out there, a kind of automatic, you can think about, right? Okay. So okay, I'll come to questions. I'll come to questions and I'll come to questions. Okay. Let me go ahead and create a, I hope that answered the question right out there. Let me go and check if there are any other question. There is no free services like EC2 and okay, I'll come to all the questions. Let me do some demos out here, or else the class will not look practical, right? So infrastructure as a service, I'm starting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. You can see at the left-hand side, there is a menu out here. I never bothered to look at this menu, right? I just go out here and search, right? So, and most of the time I know what service to use, right? If I want to use SQL Azure, I use SQL Azure. If I want to create a VNet, a virtual network, I just go and create a virtual network, right? So most of the time I know my service. But for now, I want to create a virtual machine. So there is a virtual machine out here, right? I'm going to go and create a virtual machine, right? So create a virtual machine, right? You can see there are some other options like with preset configurations. Preset configurations means it will say IIS is enabled, something is there, some service packs are installed. I'll say no, like I want to do it all by myself. Remember, this is infrastructure as a service, right? Uh, Now you can see when you buy a subscription, right, you get an account like this. You can see I have this account out here at the right hand side. It is flashed, right? This is the account which I have. Okay. So whenever you create any service, right, you belong to that account. Okay. It will go and belong to that Azure account. So your company will have an account, right? And in that account, you will go and create the service, right? But then you will say that that is great, that my company has an account, but in that we can have various projects, right? You will say there is an UK project, there is a US project, and let us say that US project, which is running is using a virtual machine. It is using a SQL Azure. It is using some queues. It is using something, some caching, APIM, and so on. So you would like to build those projects separately. You would like to maintain them separately. You would like to apply some security at a common level, right? So in other words, you would like to, in your mind, you would like to think about, something like this. You would say, okay, we have an organization account, which we have, right? Inside this, can I go and create a group, called as, the US group, as a US, or let's say project one. Okay. And then this project one, what does it use? It uses virtual machine. It uses some SQL licenses. It uses this and this, so that, I can manage them separately. I can, especially, billing becomes very easy to understand out here, saying that this project consume what, you can go and build them separately. Then you have project two, and you'll say project two is doing some machine learning, something, right? So for that, we go ahead and we create a resource group. A resource group is nothing but, you can think about, it is like a logical thing, wherein you can go and you can uh, add your resources, and you can build them, you can apply security, you can do a lot of things separately, right? So I'll go and create a resource group here. I will name this as resource delete. So I'm showing you now how to go ahead and save your money, right, when you're using Azure. Please note, guys, if you keep an Azure service on, your credit card will get billed. You will feel very sad about it, right? So I've given a name as resource delete. Normally the resource would be UK project or something, right? Or some division or some section. So why I'm given a resource delete? Because it becomes very easy to delete a resource. So you create a resource, you learn from it, and once you do the practical, just delete it, right? I'll give a virtual machine name, right? So I'll say, see, again, like I have got a question out here. What do you mean by virtual machine? A virtual machine is nothing but a machine, right, which is there on cloud out there, which you want to use you want to create your folders out there, you want to install some software. It is like a machine which is given exclusive to you. So that's what a virtual machine is. So I'll give a name here, VM123 something. Now, one of the features, which is available on cloud and which is again not available in websites like GoDaddy, etc., is that you can go and you can create your resources in any region. For example, let us say that you say, no, like I'm going and creating something for the Indian government, and I don't want you to create this virtual machine in the outside country. Then yes, you can go and you can look at India out here and select something. For example, somebody who wants to follow the GDPR rules, let's say if he's from Europe and he says, no, 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 we want that this server has to be hosted in these regions. So when you have some policies, which needs to be followed as per the what do you call, as per the regions, right? You can go and you can select out here. I will not be selecting India because it's a little bit costly, right? So let me select the basic one, US, East US I'm selecting. So my virtual machine will be created in East US, right? Now, I'll come to questions. I can see some people pinging me. Don't worry, I'll come to questions, right? Now, little bit, this is, so at the top, you have a geography. Let us talk about it. A geography is nothing but the sovereign of a country. There is a physical boundary of a country which is the sovereign of that country, right? So you must be having US, right? You must be having India, or you must be having Nepal. So these are like countries, which are known in the geography map, right? Then you will say, okay, inside India, right? What they have done is they have created regions. I mean, they will say, okay, South India, right? Or they will say North India, right? And they will say something, right? So these are termed as regions. This word region, which you see out here, it does not signify a sovereign of a country. It defines a region inside that country, right? So let's say you have South India out here, right? So that is a region out here. Okay. Now inside the region, right? So this is the region out here, right? And then inside the region, what happens is, let's say it's South India, right? So it's a South India. In South India is, let us say, your Azure data centers are in, let's say, in Hyderabad. Assume, I'm just giving an example out here, right? So you'll say, okay, or let's say in Chennai. So they have one building out here in Chennai, and somewhere inside Chennai, again, must be 50 kilometers away, there can be another building as well. Think about that. This is very bad diagram out there, but just think about this is an actual data center. It must be having different floors. So you can think about this floor one, and inside, let's say this floor, top floor out here. On the top floor, you have racks, and somewhere that machine is out here on the racks. This is a rack, right? And let's say 100 kilometers away, 50 kilometers away, or must be much more than that, there can be another building, right? See, again, these data centers are opened depending on how much is the availability in the region. you know so the data centers are well planned by Microsoft by looking at the cost and etc., right? So let's say now this is somewhere in Chennai, right? Now let us say, somewhere again in other south part of India, there is another data center out here like this. Again, inside that, let's say Bangalore, inside Bangalore again, you can have another two buildings out here separated 50 kilometers, again racks and all that, right? Okay, so this, I'll just zoom it out here. So you have rack. Think about this rack out here. Remember, whatever I'm saying out here, you have to visualize it a little bit. So let us say in the first rack, you have machine one, you have second rack, you have machine two. So when you say you are going to go and create the virtual machine, it will get created into one of these machines out here. Okay. Right. Now, so over here now, in this is termed as a zone. This one is termed as a zone, right? A zone is nothing but, where you have data centers, right? And you can have two or three data centers away, like 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers. Please note, uh, there are some norms out here that how much far away they should be there. Means it should not happen that if there is an earthquake at one place and you are just 20 kilometers away, right? Then that building will also crash, right? So when you say that it is some kilometers away, then it must be, it is 200 or 100. I don't remember the Azure norms out there, right? But it is quite away, right? So think about it. You have a geography. Geography has a region, right? South India, North India. And then again, inside the region, you have zones, right? You have zones out here. And then inside the zones, somewhere your machines are created, right? Okay, so remember, I'm just again trying to summarize here. You have region, right? You have regions have zones, right? And zones have those buildings out here. and inside that you go and create it, right? Okay. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go and say, okay. So let's say now you can see out here, this is a US East one. In that there are three zones he's saying. So which one you want to select? Okay. So in case if you want to know more about the zones, you can go and click out here. They must be having some out here, table out here saying that which country has what, right? You can have a look at that, right? So that zone one must be one of them. Okay. Now you can see there's a very nice thing here called as availability zone. Okay. So availability zone, or I will say availability set also is there. You can see that there is something called as availability set also. When I go and click on availability set, it gives me something out here. Okay. Let me explain these two concepts. What do you mean by availability zones and availability set? Okay. Let's talk about it. Guys, give me some 5-10 minutes. I know many questions are coming up. I'll take all the questions. Okay. So, um, right. So you have sovereign of a country, you have regions, right? And inside regions, you have zone, right? So this is zone one, and the zone one is having buildings which are separate, right? You can have multiple zones also, right? Like this. Okay. Now, what happens is it's very important that if, let us say, the virtual machine goes down, you want to go and have a backup, or you want to go and have those things, like 24 by 7 live and so on, 24 by 7 availability, right? So you would like to say that, okay, if something happens bad in this building, right? Is it possible to go into this building and do things? Can I replicate my virtual machine out there? So if you are looking for that, right, then you are talking about zone availability, right? You're saying that inside this zone, if something happens bad in one building, is it possible to go to another building, right? Another one which you would like to also have is that you will say, okay, like let us say I'm in the same building, right? Assume. And let us say my server is on rack. Let us say this is the same building, top floor one, right? Your top floor is there. And then you're saying, okay, this is my my machine is out here. And there is another machine down below. I'll say, see, I don't want to go and start doing a backup in some other geography or other region. Is it possible to just do a backup out here? So if something goes wrong here, I just want to get started here. Now that is termed as an availability set. Please understand the words. Availability zone means that in one zone there is a problem and you want to go and put it into another zone, right? Which is another geographical zone, or it's another physical building, right? An availability set means inside the same building or inside the same rack, you want to have your plan. And the cost of this redundancy or the cost of this availabilities, right? They change. If you say that no, I want to have a backup in India and then backup in US and then back up here, that means you're increasing the cost, right? So remember, the cost rises, as you go across areas and across zones and across regions, right? So availability set means it's in the same building, in the same rack must be, right? So you can see when I selected availability set, you can see here when I selected availability set, he says we don't have anything as such. You can see that, you can go and you can create new one out here. But the point is that uh, at this moment, so you have to go and create a new availability set inside that, and then you can apply it, right? But when you look at availability zone, as soon as it's availability zone out here, he gives you the ready-made zones what are out here, right? So remember, what you want to choose depends on you. Are you saying availability zone or are you saying availability set, right? Is important. Okay, so I'm going to go and choose availability zone. I will just take the default zone, zone one, right? I want to go and create a Windows server. So let me take a Windows Server 2002 x64 data machine out here. You can see you can use Ubuntu, you can use Linux, Debian, Red Hat. It depends, what you want, right? And so region is US East. I'm using an availability zone. You can see here, if I click here multiple zones, what will happen is my two virtual machines will be created, one for backup, another one which I will use it. If something goes wrong, it will automatically go and select the other zone. Please note it. So for now, I'll just keep it as it is, right? x64. So what kind of memory you want? Now you can see here, if you see, let's look at all the sizes. You can see the virtual machines are available in different sizes out here, right? For example, the sizes are D series, B series, and so on, right? So we'll go into this series later on, right? On what these different series are. But if I'm not wrong, there is a free series out here. I don't remember. There is one series, which is a free one. Uh, Somewhere it is, guys. I've stopped using free things, but somewhere there is, uh, there is a free virtual machine with some 2 GB RAM and 1 core and so on, right? So which you can go and hunt around it, right? I don't know if I use it free. Does it show free? No, it does not. Something is there out there, but fine. So, but for now, what I will do is I will just close this. What I've done is I am selecting at this moment 8 CPU, 32 GB RAM. Now you can see here the cost. Please note, you can see the cost out here, right? It is showing me 49,000 per month. Now, definitely, I'm not going to pay 49,000 for this. What I'll be doing is I'll be using this virtual machine. So I'll be paying 20 rupees for this 1 hour or 30 rupees for this 1 hour, right? But this is the per month cost is showing, right? Don't go on this cost. I normally select virtual machine which are higher because in the class what happens is if it takes time to log into the virtual machine, it becomes quite sick, right? So that's why I take up a virtual machine which is a bit higher out there, right? Okay, fine. So I'll just select this one and administrator account for use for Windows, what kind of account you want. So I'll just give a login name and a password, right? And yes, you should allow me to connect through RDP, right? Through the remote desktop so that I can log into my desktop and so on, right? So that's it, what I've filled. We'll talk about the networking and disk and all later on. You can see when you go to disk out here, you can configure here saying that do you want a SSD or no, you don't want an SSD, you want an HDD and so on. You can go and you can configure the cost. I will keep it as it is. We will see this more detailed configuration later on. You can see by default, a network is also created for you. Inside this network, uh, your virtual machine will run, right? So when you actually go and create a virtual machine, it is not just the virtual machine, right? It is also the cost of the operating system license. It is a cost of the virtual network. There is also an IP address which is assigned. What happened to the disk? Uh, isn't it? Hmm. What is it? Basic. Hang on. Okay. The passwords. Okay. Right. So you can see now he's telling me that it will cost you 68 rupees per hour. That is okay for me, right? So always try to look at this cost out here before you create. Now remember that this is an estimated cost, huh? uh, because the cost is not only evaluated only, it is not a flat cost. It is not, there is no guarantee that this is going to be 68 rupees. It can be 100 also, it can be 20 rupees also. It depends on that how much you are using your CPU. It depends on how much your CPU is running, right? That CPU running cost cannot be predicted at the first, right? So it's just a guesstimate, I will say, not even an estimate. Okay. One of the things, which we learn in this class is that how do you go and optimize Azure cost? Which there is a special lecture which I've kept on it. So when you say you want to go and install a IIS and use SQL Azure, the cost what you get, how do you optimize it, right? How do you go and say that, okay, locally my cost is this much. If I go online, then how much it is, right? So you can see there it is. The deployment is in progress, right? And so at the right hand side, first thing you will see that this deployment is in progress out here. So in case if you leave from the screen out here, you can still see the notifications at the right hand side. Okay, great. So that was a let that this virtual machine get created, right? I can go to some questions now until the virtual machine is showing deployment in progress, right? So very quickly, what we have done is we have looked into very quickly what we have done. We are creating this, right? uh, ARM we'll talk about. So we have talked about EAs, PAs, CAs. We have talked about pay-as-you-go model. We have talked about CapEx, OpEx, consumption-based model. I talked about how to open the Azure account. And then I went ahead to create a virtual machine and I explained like geography, regions, zones, and availability zones and availability set, right? Also, we talked about resource groups, right? And we filled the Azure machine, virtual machine. We are waiting for it, right? So let me go to the questions out here. I'll start from here. Okay, is it necessary to keep it? So let me copy. What is happening is I am on multiple platforms today, streamed. The first 1 hour is free. It's on Facebook also. It's on YouTube also, internally also, right? So let me take up some questions out here. Uh, Let me take up something from the from YouTube and from Facebook and then also internal, right? Is it necessary to keep or we can keep it switch off? See, even if you keep it switch off, this is one of the AZ 900 questions. Even if you keep it switch off, he will be at least for the hard disk space. See, and if you even if you keep it switch off, right? The Azure virtual machine it's still consuming some hard disk space, right? On Azure, you will be charged for it. For some of the service, which are serverless, for that you don't get charged. Serverless means what? For example, function app. Function app is one of the service where you have a piece of code and you want to run it. Now, when you run it, you will get the cost. For storing the code, there is no cost, right? For serverless, yes. If you create that service, if you keep it, you run it and you pay for that, right? But over here, what happens is, in case of a virtual machine, even if you keep it switch off, that HDD and SDD, whatever is there, right? It has to be stored somewhere, right? So for the storage cost, it will be there. And when you're running it, definitely the storage cost plus the CPU cost. Remember, nothing is free in Azure. In Azure and Amazon, free कुछ भी नहीं है. थोड़ा सा बस small things are free to learn and etc. But then rest you have to pay it from your pockets. Okay. So okay. So let me go back here also. Okay, let me take some questions from here. I'm sorry, I'm in multiple okay. I can see some people answering it. I'm so thankful that you're answering some questions as well. Uh, do costing differ? So okay, let me start from top. Oh my God, it's scrolled down. Huh? There is no free service like EC2 and Micro in AWS. Uh, no free service is there. As I've said, for example, you can go to the virtual machine and you can say it is free, but free means what? Free means until your credit is $200 is expired. In Azure, it is not like EC2, which you can run free and do something. So there is no free out here. Huh? So you have to pay money. But yeah, but I did not go too much into free. But what I think is for EC2 comparison, yes, there are some Azure virtual machines which you can use for free till 12 months. I think so. Uh, but it is more stricter than Amazon. Huh? In case of Amazon, you do get a lot of free services. Here you don't, right? And free means what? Only for one user and all that. You cannot use that in production. Please note it. So yeah, so there is no direct comparison. Sir, can I create it with a debit card? I think you can create, Amit. Go and try it out. I think you should be, right? But I would suggest to use a credit card. Uh, And I'll tell you, must be in private, I will tell you why credit card is good, not now. Okay. Uh, I said deploying WCF service around Angular in Azure is called a platform as a service. Yes. So if you want to go and deploy a .NET API with Angular and etc., right, there is a service called as an app service. So what you do is that you create something called as an app service out here. So this is a platform as a service. For example, now when you go and when you click on this service out here, right, and you say it's a web app, you can go and say I want to go and host a web app. We'll see this later on, but let me show you. So I can go and say, okay, what is my application? .NET, ASP.NET, Django, or Python or whatever, right? I select it and I host it, right? So to answer your question, yes, if you're selecting WCF and etc., you can go and use an app service. WCF, I'm not sure. Old technologies like uh, something very old, .NET 2.0, I'm not sure. Huh? WCF, I need to look into it. But web applications, you can, right? How much will depend? I don't know in terms of, okay. So in terms of career path, see, yeah, it will help you in career path. See, is it good for developer, this track? Yes, you can see there is a separate topic of Azure developer track. Yes, it is very useful. Okay, let me see. If I'm in India and if I select US zone, there will be latency. Yes, there will be latency. Why not? Right? Okay. What are the factors to choose from the best regions for a project? So let me answer this question in detail. See, what happens is choosing of a region, etc. Right? One can be the cost factor, but I think the most important factor is security. For example, if you're doing a project for a government, right, they won't want that data center to be hosted in other countries. So over there, you don't have a choice at all. Like GDPR rules, I've said, or let's say That day I was doing some project for a Chinese government. They won't allow you to create something outside there. Even Indian governments won't allow you to create something outside. So there you don't have a choice. So I think the biggest choice is that, do you have some compliance? If you have a compliance, then as per that you have to select it. If the cost comes in, right, I think what I understand is, definitely the wherever the data center runs. For example, if you're running the data center in India, I feel that nowadays I feel the data center of India are less uh, costly than US. Definitely, because uh, there is this dollar factor and all that, right? And all that. So definitely that, in that, if you're looking at the cost factor, right? Cost factor only, then I think going to regions, which are going to countries, uh, where you have like a little bit discounted cost, you can do it. Yes, that is possible. But don't run after discounts, huh? Okay. Okay. Let me also take up some questions from here also. Let us see. Uh, okay. I don't know. I have a lot of questions out here. Okay. What are the service providers which are provider? Uh, okay. Let me take up. Okay, guys, I'll take up these questions. Let us go to Azure virtual machine out here. Remember, I also want to do the demo. So the virtual machine has been created, right? Let me go out here. So go to this one. I'll take up questions. I can see one person saying, I am from YouTube. You're not taking the question. I will take the question. Don't worry. Connect. So you can see this is my virtual machine. I'll just go and connect out here. And I'll say, now you can see either I can download the RDP file. From Windows, if you want to go and do RDP, you use the Microsoft Terminal Services. So either you can do an MSTSC from here. So if you look at this, is the virtual machine out here. And this is the public IP address, right? So this is the public IP address. Now, please note, when this virtual machine is created, if you look at the resource group, you can see a resource delete was the name. If you go to that resource group, right, you will find it has a lot of things inside it, right? You will find a lot of things inside it. He has, means you are not charged, you are charged for everything on cloud. Okay. So you can see that he says, okay, you are charged for the public IP address, you are charged for the network, you are charged for the NIC card, network interface, you are charged for the hard disk, and then you are also charged for the processor as well. So everything what you do on Azure, they will bill you. You have to be very careful about it, right? Okay. So so that you can see that is a resource group and so many things have been created inside it, right? So I'll go now, but I'll go to the virtual machine and this is my public IP address. So what I can do, one thing is that I can just go and copy this public IP address and I can go to my Microsoft remote desktop connection and I can put it out here like this and say connect, right? Another one, what now, you can go and you can download that RDP file also. So you can just say connect out here and you can download the RDP file and it's the same thing. And you can just run the RDP file as well, whatever you wish, right? So yeah, and so there it is. Now remember that one of the things in Azure they have taken utmost care is security. Like for example, uh, you saw the password. For example, when I log in out here, you will see that he will enable the local firewall. You will see that there's a network security group already been enabled. You will see that there is a basic antivirus also been installed, right? You will see that by default, many inbounds and outbound ports are disabled. So somebody tries to ping this, right? The ICMP packets are not enabled. So by default, they make sure that anything which is there on Azure or even in Amazon, the same thing. The first thing, they will make sure is that the your security is of prime, right? So there you can see that's a virtual machine which I'm browsing out here, right? And I can use it. This is infrastructure as a service. I have to install everything. You also get an internet connection, and you definitely need an internet connection, right? But you can go and you can install things and can start using it, right? So that's my virtual machine which is running out here. Okay. Right. So I'll just close this, right? And let us go back to questions. Okay. Don't worry, there are some topics which are pending here, public and private and hybrid. I want to take that in the next class. Tomorrow also we have a session, right? So I don't want to, for this topic, I want to give some time out there. Okay. Let me go back to some questions, from online. Can I attempt Azure Developer Certification after this course? Yes, you can. See, remember, as I already said that This course is not meant to make you certified, right? See, guys, I'll tell you something about certification. I have been in this industry for a lot of years. I remember when I was doing Java certification was very hot. Oracle certification was very hot after some time. And then I saw Microsoft certification. This Azure certification, I know it is very hot today, right? But believe me that when you go for a job profile, they will ask you questions, which have nothing to do with certification. Practical questions. Like somebody asked me, right? Which region you will select. Now, in Azure certification, at least to my best knowledge, I don't know if there is a question asking all this, right? So the point is that Azure certification is good to show a certificate. But at the end of the day, until you don't create a virtual machine, until you go and don't deploy an app service, until you don't go and spend some money from your credit card and do that Azure SQL server or virtual network, it is very difficult to crack an interview or get a job, right? So I would say that don't run after certification, run after knowledge. But definitely, if I'm teaching you zones, areas, and I'll be showing that when you go to AZ 900, you will understand all the questions what to answer. So it will help you, but my goal is not to make you certified. Huh? At least this course is not there. We have a separate course for that. Is it useful for DBA? Well, for DBA, see now for DBA, like from database perspective, yes, we have Azure SQL out here, but there is no DBA in that, right? But as a DBA, what I feel now, like you will get acquainted with a lot of other Azure storages, like files and queues, Cosmos DB and NoSQL and all that. But remember that there's a complete course out here, which has also infrastructure, which has also machine learning. So have a look at that if it fits your requirement. Is it, I apologize, will replace software development 5 years? I'm starting with .NET. Okay, we'll take this question later on. Will AI replace software development? So no questions out here, I think, right? Let me go back to some questions here, right? Okay. Yeah, so that's a good answer from Ashish. Yes, if it is a production, try to choose it near your zone, right? That is definitely there. But remember, as I've said, the zone selection, first look at the compliance. Don't just select zone on the cost, huh? Uh, right. Yeah, F series, I'm saying. Yeah, that's the F series is the free one. Sir, okay, let me take this question from Sai out here. Let me copy it out here. Today's, sorry, guys, today's day would be like I have to copy it in Notepad because if we select availability set and if we create it will be created which zone, zone one or zone two or zone T because US only by default it will go on zone one. So it will be in one of the zones out there, right? We'll see the availability set demo tomorrow. Huh? So what I'm going to do is let me put that out here. Let's do because availability set is not so. Let me put it out here. Availability set demo. Let me put this. So tomorrow we'll answer this question in more detail that in which zone it will be created. Today, uh, if I do an availability set, it will take again 10-15 minutes. So I've kept some things for tomorrow as well. Let me see some other questions. So this will take tomorrow, Sai. Sir, if possible, give some point of how can we migrate on-prem? Yes, this is there, Nishant. Just let one or two lectures go off. This migration, I will have a look into it. Girish, private, public, how much it will be helpful for .NET developers? I think many people are asking this. See, guys, if you look at as a .NET developer, right, what does the industry look at? Industry says that, do you know how to host an application? Do you understand Azure SQL, right? Do you understand the different storage things? As a Azure developer, what I feel now that I think the industry will look at overall. So if you look at developer track, as I already said, there's a complete developer track, function app, logic app, web app, security, OpenID, OAuth 2.0. A developer, they will expect a lot of things. They will expect the developer should know how to configure even Docker, how to configure DevOps. So it is so, this is all developer only at the end of the day, I feel so. But yes, if you're saying just pure hosting developer application, then this is what it is. But if you're saying overall, like you have to do DevOps also, you have to do machine learning also, right? Then the whole course is for you, right? Recording will be available. Yeah, don't worry. Only resource group creation. Yeah, resource group creation is free. I agree that. Whatever the cost is, like, can it go? Yes, it can go beyond that cost. I've already said that. It is a guesstimate. It is not even an estimate. So yes, Ashok, the cost can go above that also. But I think, uh, to my best knowledge, whatever I've used Azure for so many years, it does not go plus minus 15-20%. So let us say if they have shown 80 rupees, so it will not go above that. Let's say 15-20%. You can add extra and think about it. At least I've seen, I've not got billed more than that. And remember, what you can do is that every day the cost is updated. So you can go to your cost center out here. We'll look into this, and you can just watch your bills, right? The daily bills out here, and you can just have a, like, this one is, see my last billed amount. Don't go on my last billed amount of 4,000 rupees. This is for a project. It was right, but the point is that you can at least get uh, the bills out. You, let's say if like today I'm using it, right? Tomorrow I'll show you a bill. He will show me that okay, this much is the amount, right? So with that you can just extrapolate it and see that how much is used. Okay. Remember, guys, now you'll be shocked. Oh, 3,000. No, this 3,000 rupees is because last time I used a firewall, I used an APIM, I did a lot of things. Huh? That's why it is 3,000. And I forgot to delete it. लग गया 1,000 2,000 extra लग गया मुझे, right? Okay. App service is used for Delphi and web is used for, yeah. So I think, I don't know if for Delphi there is an app service. We'll see that tomorrow whenever we do app service. But I think Delphi also should be there. I have not checked it. Don't they have Delphi? No, they don't have it. Hmm. This becomes a problem. For example, what if I want to do ASP.NET Web Forms? No, nothing, right? So sad thing for Delphi, I think, Samita. Can we enable two-factor authentication in VM setup? Yes, you can. Let me put this also. Let me put this. I think these are good inputs. Two-factor authentication. Auth in VM. You can. You can. Yeah. ये कल के लिए डाल दिया मैंने. You know. Okay, you can deploy. I can see many questions out there. You can deploy your .NET in app service and so on. Okay. Yeah. So again, like these questions of AZ, I will attempt to, I will show the questions, but I will not be going like, my goal is not to cover AZ 204 and AZ 900. Huh? Tomorrow we'll cover some AZ 900 question, but Mandar, as I've said that I will give you the dumps, very frankly, you can have a look at it, but let us focus more on knowledge. What is ARM, right? Let me talk about ARM as someone has answered it. It is a template, for example, I can go out here. Now, let's say that this is my virtual machine out here. I can go and I can create an ARM out of it, a template out of it. And that template, and let's say somebody says, I want to go and create 100 such virtual machines. So I can keep clicking again on every virtual machine and say, itna GB RAM and all that, right? So what you can do, you can go and you can create an ARM and then say, okay, create 100 VMs out of it and done. So it's like a template. We'll see that demo also, right? Okay, very quickly, I can see one question out here, sir. So how do we go and delete everything what we have created? Let me show that as so. See now, if you say you want to go and delete it, what you should do is, now this is the resource, this is the resource out here. Go to the resource group out here and delete the resource group completely. This will ensure that whatever you are using out here, the IP address, the NIC card, that virtual network, everything will go and delete it. Don't delete individually. This is something, it was very painful, when I was in AWS. I'm not saying that they don't have groups out there, but the point is that it was a little bit painful. I felt in case of Azure, I find it to be very easy, right? So you can just go and say resource delete. This is the resource group name, copy it and delete. And there it is. You won't be billed. So I'll be billed 100 rupees must be for this maximum and nothing more about it, right? So that will go and delete the resource, I guess so, right? After some time, I will not be able to access this resource, right? So delete the resource group, guys. Don't delete. If you go and delete the individual virtual machines, it will not work. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so there's a good question. Actually, I deleted that virtual machine, but good question out here. I'll take it. So if we have got the public IP address, can we ping? No. Look, so by default, in case of any VM which is created, right, the security are first applied. So ICMP packets are disabled. So if you want to do a ping, if you want to do a telnet, all that, right, ICMP packet has to be enabled. So you have to go to the Windows firewall and you have to enable ICMP packet. Then only you can go and ping that public IP address. Okay. So by default, it is not there. I'm sorry, I deleted the virtual machine, or I would have shown you how to do it, right? So guys, I'm avoiding questions, which are not related to Azure training. Huh? How should upskill? Okay, so must be you can send us a mail and we can discuss this, right? Should I upskill and all? So let me not take this question out here. Let's stick to Azure. Yeah. Go back here. Any questions? Yeah, so we will be, this is a good question out here. Can you tell me something which are unique features of Azure when compared to AWS or GCP, right? GCP, I will not keep in comparison because GCP, I think, will have its own sweet time to come to the level of Azure and AWS. I'm not saying GCP is not good, it is great, but I feel the biggest player markets are definitely Azure and AWS. AWS is the biggest one. It was the biggest one, right? Azure is slowly capturing it, right? It has come very near to it. Now, let me tell you what the biggest difference is. See, like you have EC2, you have virtual machine out here. If you have what do you call something out here of no SQL, you will have something here, right? I think those all things are out there. Where I feel, that Azure will win or Azure wins over AWS is that if you're working with Microsoft technologies, right? Very clearly, I will say you. For example, let's say that you are a Visual Studio guy, you're doing ASP.NET. The integration of VS with Azure is like, it's like, it's like the dal and the rice, just click on it, it just goes out, right? In case of AWS, I'm not saying it is not there, but you have to install this, you have to install that, you have to install that extension, right? Second, what I found is that if you are talking about Microsoft software licenses, let us say you say SQL, or like some of the services like SQL Azure, right? Now, SQL Azure is not available on AWS. There you have to actually go and buy an SQL Server license. And if I see last time when I was talking with one of the companies, that SQL license on Azure, it was cheaper as compared to that, right? But at the same time, in Azure, the Linux products will be costlier, or non-Microsoft products will be costlier out here because then they have to negotiate that rates, right? So I feel that if you're a Microsoft shop, this is my feeling. This is my feeling. If you're a Microsoft shop, right, you're doing .NET, you're doing SQL Server, you are doing ASP.NET, you're hosting on SQL Azure, Windows operating system. Don't even look. I'm not saying, with all respect to AWS, I would suggest to go on Azure, right? The integration is so smooth and so on. But if you're on non-Microsoft platforms, then I would suggest to go on AWS, right? Cost factor also, like nowadays, the cost factor is also coming very nearby. I know that someone will say it is 5% costlier, but if that person has optimized it properly, that 5% will become 2% or 3%, right? Frankly, some of my last Azure configurations which I've done, last 12 months of bill I have ran for a very big project. They have this, there are two companies inside it. One company is like non-Microsoft, they are hosting on AWS, same kind of application. Another company, group of companies, the CTO is a Microsoft shop, they host Microsoft. I don't see the build differences too much. On the contrary, because they are using a lot of Microsoft products, I found the Azure to be cheaper by 10%. Okay, this is just my analysis I'm giving, right? Okay. Okay, so that brings us today to the end of the session. Let me see if I can you explain IaaS and PaaS? So, Sangam, have a look at it, but I'll just tell you, IaaS means infrastructure as a service. You want to take the machine, you want to install things, you want to do it all yourself. Platform as a service means you don't want to get into that IaaS, पीछे कहाँ pool है. You want to just say, okay, select app service, host it. The app service will go find a virtual machine and do the hosting, right? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. There are too many things. Okay, let me. Okay, I think, guys, I think there are a lot of many other questions out here. Let me see. Okay, I don't know why people are not able to understand EAS, PIAS, and CIAS. Let me try again. Two, three questions I've seen out here. See, guys, what happens in Azure is, I'm sorry, guys, if I'm repeating this, because I've got four questions out there. Must be my explanation was not proper. See, let me try this again, right? And this will be the last question I will take. Okay. And then whatever other questions are there, correspond support, please send those questions to us, questions to me, right? And we'll try to keep an answer ready in the next session, right? So here it is. See, what happens is you go on Azure, you go on cloud, and you say that I want to handle everything myself. I want to configure everything myself. I want a virtual machine. That means you are talking about infrastructure as a service. You want to control that machine, you want to hold that machine, You want to probably format it, you want to do whatever you want to do over here. This is called as infrastructure. You are the guy who is in control of it, right? In a platform as a service, what happens is you don't want to deal with this virtual machine. You want to deal with some service at the top, which is provided by that Azure or AWS. And let us say you say, okay, host an application out here. He will figure out a virtual machine from somewhere. He will host it. He will configure it. He will do the IaaS thing. And you are just working on this service, right? And then we have software as a service where you don't even have to deal with the service, but you are dealing with the direct software with a UI out here. And there you are saying, okay, like an accounting application, or must be Excel, or must be Word, MS Office, Office 365, right? So that is the software as a service. Okay. Again, go through the videos, try to Google, you will get the answers, right? Okay, guys. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Let me just tell you what is for tomorrow. So today we have covered these things, right? Tomorrow, my goal is that I will just run you through private and public and hybrid cloud. We'll talk about that. We will look into this availability set and two-factor authentication a little bit. I'll show you the idea what to do it. We'll understand these terminologies. I think these terminologies I'll be using now and then when I go ahead, right? This is high availability. This setting is for scalability. This is for elasticity. So a lot of developers think, that this availability, scalability, elasticity, agility, sub ek hi hai bhai. It is not one. There are a lot of differences in that, right? And definitely I'll be running you through some AZ900 questions. Remember that this class is not here to clear your Azure certification, but let me give you a flavor of AZ900. Some 5-10 questions we'll look through, right? And we'll be looking through questions every now and then. For example, if I go and do a web application on a developer track, I'll be doing some developer questions around what I've taught. Only around what I've taught. I will not be taking questions which are talking about services which I have not taught, then I won't take that questions, right? Okay, guys, thank you very much. You will get all these recordings, right? Remember, anyone who has problems, specifically who has taken this course, right? From Monday to Thursday, you can connect with me. So you can go ahead, you can send a mail first. First, do send a mail. Then we connect online in the afternoon time or sometime, right? And ask me questions only around what I've taught. If you're asking me project-based questions, remember, it takes a lot of time to go inside your project. You can't give access to me to your infrastructure, right? So it does not work anywhere. So I can just answer to you from the top, but it's not a support service, huh? Please understand that sometimes people come with projects, they say bata do kya karne ka hai, and I don't know what to do, right? So but yes, I'm there here to guide you, right? And please practice. From Monday to Friday is your day. If you don't practice, what will happen is I will just take one class after another class, and the course will finish, right? So the practicing part, we are not doing it. You can see here, I've kept 4 hours. You know why I've kept 4 hours? As a trainer, I think that 1 hour will go in doing the practicals, right? That's what I've kept it. But definitely this will take 4 hours. Surely it will take 1 or 2 hours extra over there. But some hours I've kept, for practice as well, right? So please utilize that time as well. So thank you very much. Happy learning out there. Let us connect tomorrow 9 p.m. and let us do the rest of the thing.